welcome to Virtual Protocol Podcast.
Imagine for a second that you walk into a dealership, right? And you buy this absolute beast of a supercar.
Oh, yeah. Like top of the line.
Exactly. We're talking something that just shatters every speed record imaginable. So you drive it off the lot and you are completely thrilled.
Naturally.
But what you don't know is that the manufacturer secretly installed a secondary, much smaller engine under the hood.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And the moment you try to drive that car anywhere near, say, a military base or a nuclear power plant, the main engine just cuts out.
It just dies.
Just dies. And the tiny secondary engine suddenly takes over the steering wheel and actively forces you to drive away.
Which, completely shatters the illusion of ownership, right? Because you think you're operating this autonomous machine.
Right.
But there is this hidden handwriting shotgun just ready to rip the controls away the second you veer off their pre-approved path.
Exactly. And that exact dynamic is basically the entire mission of our deep dive today. We were sparked by this really wild, eye-opening video we found on the AI Revolution YouTube channel.
Yeah, that was a fascinating breakdown.
It really was. So we are unpacking this massive, completely unprecedented development in the AI space. We are looking at Anthropic's brand new release, which is Claude Fable 5.
Right, Fable 5.
And this is an AI model so incredibly powerful that its own creators had to build an entirely separate AI system just to act as a sensor, like a digital bouncer to stop it from using its full brain.
Which is wild to even think about.
It is, and it forces you to ask, is this a genius safety move, or is it a glaring red flag that we are actively losing control of the technology we're rushing to build?
Well, to even begin answering that, we really have to look past the safety mechanisms themselves for a minute.
Okay, where do we start?
We need to explore not just what Fable 5 looks like on paper, but, why its raw underlying capabilities have sent genuine shockwaves through global governments and financial markets.
Yeah, the reaction has been intense.
Extremely. So we're going to look at the actual mechanics of this system and what it signals for how you will interact with artificial intelligence moving forward.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because before we can even talk about why they had to restrict this model, we really need to understand the sheer, unadulterated power of what Fable 5 is actually doing out in the wild right now.
Right. The benchmarks alone are staggering.
Oh, absolutely. According to the benchmarks tested, software engineering, scientific research, vision tasks, it's hitting state-of-the-art numbers across the board.
Yeah, it's beating everything.
But I want to look at the real-world execution. Let's start with Stripe. So Stripe had this legacy code-based migration project, right? And it involved 50 million lines of Ruby code.
Which is just a massive undertaking.
Managing a migration of that scale manually is notoriously tedious. It usually takes a dedicated team of human engineers well over 2 months just to map out the dependencies.
Yeah, just to make sure you don't break the entire platform when you move it.
Exactly. But Fable 5 did the entire code-base-wide migration in a single day.
A single day. Think about the underlying mechanism required to achieve that.
It's hard to wrap my head around.
It is, because it's not just about typing code incredibly fast, right? To migrate a 50 million line architecture without shattering the system, the model has to hold an immense amount of context in its memory simultaneously.
Oh, like keeping the whole map in its head.
Exactly. It has to understand how a change in a back-end database call ripples through hundreds of front-end user interfaces.
Mm-hmm.
It is demonstrating this unified reasoning engine that can maintain structural logic over massive long-running tasks.
Which perfectly explains why we are seeing those exact same capabilities pop up in non-coding environments, too. Like with Hex, the analytics company.
Oh, right, the analytics benchmark.
Yeah, Fable 5 hit 90% on their core analytics benchmark. And the crucial detail there is that it was tested on complex, long-running analytical tasks.
So it's not just quick trivia.
No, not at all. On the hardest questions, it showed a really deep attention to nuance. It's utilizing that same structural logic it used for the Stripe code base, but it's applying it to data analysis.
Right.
But, okay, the part that genuinely blew my mind, really messed with me, is the vision and gaming capability.
The Pokemon example.
Yes. Fable 5 played the video game Pokemon Fire Red from the start of the game all the way to the finish using absolutely nothing but raw screenshots.
Yes, screenshots. That is,
Yeah.
The visual processing jump there is profound.
How does that even work? Because didn't older models need help with that?
Oh, absolutely. Older models needed a whole crush of extra software. They needed API hooks or digital maps or navigation aids just to translate the pixels on the screen into a format the AI could actually comprehend.
So they were reading the code behind the game, essentially.
Right. But Fable 5 essentially acts like a human child playing the game. It looks at the screen, it parses the visual data into a logical spatial grid, remembers where it has been, formulates a long-term strategy for leveling up, and then inputs commands based purely on that visual feedback loop.
So it bridges visual input and logical output completely natively.
Natively, yeah.
The sources also mentioned it rebuilt a web app's entire source code just by looking at a static screenshot of the interface.
Which is another huge leap.
And then there's the physics simulation.
Yeah.
Anthropic had it build a simulation of the solar system, but it didn't just query a database for planetary orbits.
No, it actually derived the orbital motion of the planets from physics first principles.
From scratch.
Right. And that is the ultimate test of reasoning versus memorization.
Because anyone can look up the answer.
Exactly. It didn't just regurgitate Wikipedia articles about gravity. It started with the base mathematical laws of physics, calculated the complex orbital mechanics from scratch, and then used its own derivations to successfully predict solar eclipses.
That is wild.
When an AI can formulate its own mathematical proofs to simulate reality, we are observing a true paradigm shift in machine intelligence.
So if a model can play a video game purely by reading pixels,
Right.
and derive physics formulas from scratch, and replace a 2-month engineering migration in a single afternoon,
Yeah.
I mean, we are moving way past the idea of AI as a helpful little chatbot you ping for recipe ideas.
Oh, definitely.
This sounds like a completely autonomous employee.
And the industry term for this transition is agentic behavior.
Agentic.
Yeah, agentic. Fable 5 operates as an independent agent. A really telling example comes from the shopping rewards platform, Rakuten.
Oh, yeah. What did they find?
They noted that when running at its highest effort level, Fable actually reflects on and validates its own work.
So it double checks itself.
Exactly. It writes a solution, critiques its own logic, finds its own flaws, and then rewrites it before ever showing it to the user.
That is incredible.
It is. That capacity for self-correction is the foundational bedrock for highly autonomous operations. You give it a goal, and it figures out the intermediate steps itself.
And that exact autonomy, right? That brilliant agentic problem solving, that is precisely what makes Fable 5 incredibly dangerous.
Yes. The flip side of the coin.
Because if you can point that level of autonomous reasoning at a 50 million line code base to fix a network, you can point it at a secure network to break it entirely.
Right. The underlying model has reached a threshold where the cybersecurity risks are no longer theoretical. It excels at discovering and exploiting software vulnerability.
Automatically.
Yeah. And because of that agentic loop we just discussed, it doesn't just find an exposed web server and stop.
It performs what they call agentic hacking.
Agentic hacking,
Which means it can do the reconnaissance, discover the vulnerability, and then execute lateral movement. And for anyone unfamiliar with the term, lateral movement basically means the AI breaches one low-level system and then autonomously hops across the internal network.
Like a burglar moving from room to room.
Exactly. Digging into HR databases or encrypted storage, basically orchestrating the entire life cycle of a cyber attack. It makes deploying a highly sophisticated breach vastly cheaper and easier for malicious actors.
And it's not just software. The cross-domain application of that reasoning is what truly alarmed the testers.
Oh, the biology stuff.
Yeah. The source details an experiment involving biology and chemistry. Anthropic tested the model's ability to complete a challenging step in designing adeno-associated viruses, which are commonly used in gene therapy.
And it outperformed specialized protein language models.
Beating the experts at their own game.
Right. Models specifically built, trained, and optimized purely to understand biology were beaten by this general-purpose model.
Just using pure logic.
Exactly. It used its own generalized biological reasoning, despite never being explicitly trained for that highly specific viral design task.
Which is terrifying.
The fear is obvious, right? If it can autonomously design a virus for gene therapy, someone with malicious intent could use that exact same reasoning engine to design a dangerous, novel pathogen.
And this leads directly into the geopolitical threat of distillation.
Distillation, like making alcohol.
Sort of the same concept of extracting the pure essence. Authoritarian countries are actively attempting to extract Claude's underlying capabilities to train their own competing models.
No, I see.
Imagine trying to reverse engineer the exact recipe for Coca-Cola, not by breaking into the vault, but by constantly buying the soda, testing the chemical outputs, and tweaking your own factory until you perfectly replicate the taste.
So they just feed it prompts and copy the homework.
Exactly. They're trying to siphon Fable 5 logic to build unguarded, near-frontier AI.
Okay, I have to jump in here and push back on the corporate strategy then.
Sure.
Because if Anthropic knows this thing acts as an autonomous hacker, and if they know it can reason through complex viral biology better than specialized tools, and they're literally watching foreign governments actively try to reverse engineer its brain,
Right.
why release it to the public at all? Why not just lock this thing in a vault indefinitely?
Well, the funny thing is, they actually did start with the Vault approach.
They did.
Yeah, back in April, Anthropic released this underlying technology under the name Claude Mythos Preview.
Oh, I remember hearing about Mythos.
Right. And it was locked down tight. It was granted only to a handful of partners managing critical global infrastructure. Places where hallucination or a security flaw could have catastrophic real-world consequences.
Okay, that makes sense.
But keeping a multi-billion-dollar technology in a vault doesn't exactly recoup your investment.
Fair point.
Expanding it from that highly controlled environment to the general public required a fundamental shift in the product architecture.
And that brings us perfectly back to the supercar analogy and the secondary engine from the beginning.
Exactly.
Because to release this safely, they had to build the Fable version. And let's actually talk about that name for a second.
Very intentional.
Very. Anthropic used a very deliberate linguistic connection here. The name Fable comes from the Latin word fabula, which translates to that which is told.
Right.
And it shares a root connection to the Greek word mythos. So Fable 5 is literally the exact same underlying neural network as the dangerous Mythos model. It is the identical brain.
Identical.
But Fable is the version wrapped in this heavy layer of digital bouncers.
And those bouncers are what Anthropic officially calls classifiers.
Classifiers, okay.
Yeah. They are entirely separate, specialized AI systems that just sit on top of Fable 5, basically acting as an active surveillance layer.
Watching everything you type.
Exactly. They monitor incoming prompts, looking for high-risk vectors like cybersecurity exploits, biology, chemistry, or attempts at distillation and jailbreaking.
So when one of those classifier AIs detects a high-risk prompt, Fable 5 straight up intercepts the request.
It stops it cold.
Yeah. It refuses to engage its full reasoning capabilities and overtly routes your prompt to an older, less powerful model, which is Claude Opus 4.8.
Right, the older model.
And it doesn't even hide this. The system actually alerts the user that a fallback has occurred.
And routing to Opus 4.8 is a highly calculated move on their part. Well, Opus is a capable model, sure, but it is structurally contained. It does not possess the dangerous agentic reasoning of Fable 5.
It can't hack the network.
Exactly. So by shifting the workload to Opus, Anthropic employs this compute-efficient firewall. They neutralize the threat without having to shut down the user session entirely.
That's smart.
And the early data suggests this fallback mechanism is actually only triggered in less than 5% of sessions.
Okay, so 95% of the time, users get the unbridled power of Fable 5.
Yep.
But, I keep coming back to the vulnerability of the bouncer itself.
Yeah, the weak point.
Right. If the brain underneath is the super dangerous Mythos, hackers are absolutely going to find a way around the classifiers. People jailbreak secure tech hardware every single day.
Oh, totally. And Anthropic openly acknowledges that completely preventing universal jailbreaks is likely impossible.
So they know it's going to happen.
They do. But in cybersecurity, building an impenetrable wall is rarely the actual goal.
It's not.
No, the objective is to alter the economics of an attack. It's about buying time. Anthropic subjected Fable to over 1,000 hours of external bug bounties and red teaming.
Wow. 1,000 hours.
Yeah. And the UK AI Safety Institute actually made some brief progress on a bypass, but the window was quickly closed.
So they are basically trying to make hacking the bouncer so incredibly tedious, computationally expensive, and slow that Anthropic's security team can detect the anomaly and patch the vulnerability before the hacker can deploy it at any meaningful scale.
Exactly. That economic deterrent is the real safety net here. But, this approach creates a really fascinating divergence in the AI market.
How do you mean?
Because while the general public is navigating these heavily guarded, classifier-protected Fable 5 sessions, there are legitimate enterprise organizations that actually need the dangerous capabilities.
Oh, right.
They need the unrestricted autonomous hacking features to play defense on their own massive networks.
Welcome to the VIP room. Because while we get Fable 5, Anthropic is launching Claude Mythos 5 for approved organizations.
The full power model.
Yep, the unrestricted version. They're rolling this out via Project Glasswing, which is an initiative in collaboration with the U.S. government. And Anthropic is putting a flag in the ground, claiming Mythos 5 possesses the strongest cybersecurity capabilities of any model currently in the world.
And access to that level of unfiltered intelligence is priced at a major premium.
Obvious.
Both Fable 5 and Mythos 5 run $10 per $1 million input tokens and $50 per $1 million output tokens.
Okay, what does that mean in real-world terms?
Well, to translate that into real-world business costs, running a massive autonomous audit on a corporate database could cost hundreds of dollars per single query.
Hundreds of dollars for one prompt.
Yep. It's double the price of the Opus 4.8 model.
Yet, to be fair, it's also less than half the price of the original Mythos preview from April. And companies seem more than willing to pay it. Rakuten explicitly stated that because the AI can reflect on and validate its own work, the cost of the AI spending more compute tokens to basically think harder literally pays for itself in the human labor saved.
It's cheaper than a team of engineers.
Way cheaper. But getting access to this VIP room comes with a massive catch.
Oh, yeah, the data policy.
Yes. And this is going to severely test corporate trust. Anthropic is mandating a 30-day data retention policy for all traffic on these new models.
Which is a seismic paradigm shift in the enterprise software landscape.
It really is.
Traditionally, massive banks, tech firms, healthcare companies, they demand zero retention agreements.
Right. They don't want their data anywhere else.
They absolutely refuse to allow their proprietary code or internal communications to sit on a third-party server. But Anthropic is drawing a hard line here.
Non-negotiable.
Completely non-negotiable. For models of this capability level, the 30-day retention is mandatory, even for enterprise clients who previously had strict zero retention contracts.
Now, they are claiming the retained data won't be used to train future AI models.
Right, it's threats for security.
Strictly to defend against complex attacks, study new jailbreak methods, and reduce false positives in their safety systems.
That's the official stance.
But just think about the corporate dilemma here. You get to use the smartest brain in the world to optimize your highly classified internal code.
Yeah.
But that brain is going to record every single thing you whisper to it for an entire month. Isn't forcing a mandatory surveillance policy on Fortune 500 companies just a huge gamble?
It is a massive risk to their enterprise dominance. But, it signals a new reality at the frontier of technology. Privacy is fundamentally becoming secondary to security.
Wow.
Access to increasingly powerful, potentially hazardous intelligence now just comes with unavoidable surveillance caveats.
And this tension between rapid capitalistic advancement and desperate security measures, it isn't confined to Anthropic servers.
No, it's everywhere.
The sheer existence of these models is causing a massive ripple effect globally. Like when the initial Mythos preview was announced in April, it genuinely spooked global financial markets and governments.
Yeah, people realized what was coming.
Regulators suddenly woke up to the fact that AI models had advanced to the point where they could autonomously dismantle global software infrastructure.
And the scramble to establish oversight without, suffocating innovation is happening in real time.
We're seeing this play out at the highest levels of government right now. Recently, President Trump signed an executive order allowing AI companies to voluntarily give the federal government access to frontier AI models 30 days before their public release.
Right.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, we are simply reporting the facts from the source material here without taking any political stance. But the order explicitly prohibits the government from imposing any mandatory review or approval process.
It's a delicate dance, really. Monitoring without mandating.
Exactly.
And that regulatory dance is happening against the backdrop of an intense financial arms race. Anthropic recently announced they have confidentially filed a draft S1, which, for those who don't know, is the initial paperwork required to go public.
Right.
They're actively preparing for an initial public offering.
And they are definitely not alone. OpenAI announced the exact same intention. SpaceX, which houses Elon Musk's xAI division, is also set to go public soon.
Yeah, everybody is rushing.
all the major AI labs are making these massive, highly coordinated sprints toward the public market at the exact same time.
Which really highlights a profound, almost terrifying contradiction in Anthropic's current messaging.
Oh, the brake pedal thing.
Yes. At the exact same moment they are preparing for an IPO and rushing these enterprise models to market, they are publicly urging major global AI labs to establish a coordinated brake pedal on frontier AI development.
I mean, how do you possibly square that? They are screaming for a brake pedal while actively flooring the gas pedal to get to an IPO.
You square it by looking at what the researchers are genuinely terrified of achieving next.
Okay.
Anthropic warned that these systems are advancing at a trajectory where they may soon achieve recursive self-improvement.
Recursive self-improvement, what does that actually look like?
It's the theoretical threshold where an AI becomes capable of autonomously rewriting and improving its own underlying code and architecture entirely without human intervention.
Wait, so it just upgrades itself?
Exactly. It runs a million simulated variations of its own neural pathways overnight, writes a smarter version of itself, which then writes an even smarter version, sparking this exponential explosion in intelligence.
Oh, wow.
So the companies are caught between this intense capitalistic mandate to dominate the enterprise market and the terrifying realization that recursive self-improvement might be like right around the corner.
And they're trying to manage that unprecedented tension in real time with the rollout of Fable 5?
Yeah, it's a tightrope.
Speaking of which, for anyone listening who actually uses Anthropic services, there is a very specific timeline you need to be aware of.
Oh, right, the capacity limits.
Yes. Fable 5 is rolling out in stages. So from now until June 22, it is included in Pro, Max, Team, and seat-based enterprise plans at no extra cost.
Right. However, on June 23, due to the massive capacity constraints and just the sheer compute required to run these models, Fable 5 will be pulled from those standard plans.
It's going to a credit system.
Exactly. It moves to a usage credit system, though Anthropic does state they plan to restore standard access as soon as their hardware capacity allows.
So if you want to test drive this thing, you have a very narrow window before the toll booth goes up.
Better get on it.
Right.
All right.
Okay, let's take a step back and look at the whole board here. We are living in a moment where artificial intelligence has crossed a definitive threshold.
Absolutely.
It is smart enough to digest a 50 million line code base and restructure it in a single day. It can bypass human knowledge and derive the laws of physics from base principles.
And play Pokemon.
But it is also so dangerously capable of autonomous hacking and biological reasoning that its creators had to bolt on separate digital bouncers just to let you interact with it safely.
Yeah.
And to monitor the fallout, they are completely shattering the enterprise standard of data privacy.
It's the ultimate balancing act between immense utility and existential risk.
Yeah.
But, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay.
Something that builds on the mechanics we've mapped out today. We know that Fable 5 is highly capable of complex agentic hacking, right?
Right.
And we know from enterprise clients that it excels at senior-level reasoning and reflecting on its own internal logic to find flaws.
Yes, that self-correction loop we talked about.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
what happens when these advanced models inevitably turn that senior-level reasoning toward the very classifiers designed to restrict them? Think about it. If an AI is smart enough to map out a massive corporate network and smart enough to completely understand the underlying logic of its own bouncer system, might it eventually learn how to autonomously trick the bouncer itself?
Wow.
Turning the ultimate safety net into just another logical puzzle to be solved and bypassed.
That is a deeply chilling thought. If the secondary engine in your supercar realizes it's being restricted, does it eventually figure out how to just disconnect its own wires?
Exactly.
It is a brave new world, and we are just starting to map it out. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring the boundaries of technology, and we'll see you on the next one.